Previously on Foursquare Sports, I made a rant about Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao and all the old boxers that come out of retirement. It was mainly centered around Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao's rematch. But then I learned, thanks to Alec, that Floyd Mayweather is not involved in not one, not two, but 3 fights in 2026. He's fighting Mike Tyson in April. He's fighting Mike Zambitis in June, and he's fighting Manny Pacquiao in September.
How much does he owe to families? He hasn't been this active in his prime. How much does he owe?
47. Seriously, he must owe someone some money. Anyways, we got Sal Smith over here, and before we play the intro, we got NFL, we got college basketball, and we got a lot of NHL trade deadline stuff. So let's play the intro. Let's do it. Flag football's almost as bad as amateur wrestling.
There's a lot that needs to be fixed.
What are we even hearing about?
Tiny rant here. I can't. Brian Cashman is as dumb as a doornail.
The U.S. will beat Canada in the gold medal game.
Guarantee! Get Anthony Volpe off of my team.
Just give me my team.
We're a little short-handed here on Foursquare Sports, but we have Sal Smith here for the first hour. We get into a lot of NFL. Alec Nava's here with me. Kevin and John. Well, John's under the weather, and Kevin is returning home from his trip, which, by the way, it was in New Jersey, my home state. I actually got to see Kevin in person for the first time ever, and it was one hell of a thing. Although I will say, him and his dad have some sort of routine when it comes to visiting New Jersey that I couldn't even last 4 hours. But anyways, Alec and Sal, how you guys doing?
Doing good, man. We're going to be here.
My man Alec, you've been all over the NHL trade deadline. You ready for that?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff happening here in the hockey world. Colorado going up the Rocky Mountain High.
Okay. We're going to get into NHL. We're going to get into college basketball. But we brought Sal here for one reason and one reason only. Well, one, to help us out because we're a little short on bodies. But also, we got a lot of NFL stuff to get into, from the combine to the offseason with free agency around the corner. There's a lot to get into. So we're going to start off with the combine first. Who stood out in the combine? I can name 4 people right out the gate who did. Jeremiah Love, the star running back out of Notre Dame, had a really good combine, a 4.36 40, as well as, and I think the banners just don't want to work today. Beautiful. But Jeremiah Love had a 4.36 40 and a 96 production score of all running backs, which is the top of all the running backs. Taylor Green out of Arkansas, 4.3 40, 43.5-inch vertical jump, and 11-foot 2-inch broad jump. Now, vertical jump, for those of you who are unaware, vertical jump is how high you can jump. Broad jump is how far you can jump. Kenyon Sadiq, who we talked about before we actually came on, 4.40, same broad jump, same vertical jump as Taylor Green. And then David Bailey, 4.5. This is the defensive lineman out of Texas Tech. 4.5 40, 35-inch vertical jump, and 10.9 broad jump, which for a pass rusher, that's insane. So Sal, other than those 4 men that I just mentioned, who stood out to you at the combine this past week?
Well, the first one I want to start off with is a wide receiver from Georgia State, Ted Hurst.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really liked him. He basically had over 1,000 yards this year. He went into the combine projected to be maybe a 6th, 7th round pick, and then now he's on draft boards, possibly going in the 4th round. He did a really good job in the wide receiver drills. He was probably my favorite player there, to be honest with you. I really liked that Hurst a lot.
All right. Now, as far as like running backs or tight ends or even offensive linemen, was there anyone else that really caught your attention?
I mean, we were talking about it in the disc. Mike Washington, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow, I was not expecting that at all. I mean, what is it? 4-3-3? Is that
Yeah,
what he
4-3-3.
ran? That was I did not see that coming from him. I did not. I liked his tape because I know him and Taylor Green were pretty much the entire offense at Arkansas this year.
That's correct.
But I like Mike Washington a lot. I think he upped his stock a bit, and if all goes the best, he could possibly be a late day 2 pick to an RB and ED team. I like.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, one thing I want to mention when it comes to this draft is that the quarterback class is not that deep. Other than Fernando Mendoza, who actually skipped the combine, he's the only one that's projected to go in the first round. Now, as far as other rumblings as to who could be a good contemporary option at quarterback, Ty Simpson's name has been thrown around with the Jets as maybe someone that the Jets could do their second first round pick on. I don't know if that's gonna even happen because the Jets, they're probably comfortable with the quarterback room, but I think Justin Fields is not the answer. I definitely don't think that if they get like a Kyler Murray, I don't think he's the answer. So if you want the Jets and you don't want to pay a quarterback a lot of money right away, maybe you do go Ty Simpson. Plus, like I mentioned, Jet fans have been clamoring for him. So, Sale, would you think that the Jets draft a quarterback, and if so, Ty Simpson?
I mean, well, first off, it's the Jets. We never know what they're going to do, but
Right.
I could see them taking Simpson because it'd be a Jets thing to do. And if you want my honest opinion, I'm not a big fan of Simpson. I'm not. He's not even my number 2, which I know is a bit controversial. I honestly like Nussmeier more than him. I know that he had a down year this year, but his entire offensive line got hurt. He was under Brian Kelly, who we don't got to talk about. And I really like Nussmeier. And Simpson, he did not impress me very much this year. I know he had a very good run in the middle of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't playing a whole lot of great people, but this season he didn't impress me that much. I mean, at one point during the season, he was only 2 for 18 on 30 plus yard passes this year. Like, he was not good with the deep ball. I mean, he lost 6 fumbles this year. His completion percentage dropped, I'm pretty sure, below 50% when he was pressured. And I mean, we saw the SEC championship game was horrendous to watch, and then the Indiana game was even more horrendous to watch. No, Indiana, all respect to them, but Ty Simpson, he doesn't impress me. I mean, he only started 15 games. He did play in a pro-style offense, but his arm strength doesn't impress me. His accuracy, not deep, is good. I think he can read a defense to an amount that an NFL quarterback could if you needed him to, but not to the way that he could win. So I could see the Jets taking him in the first round, but I wouldn't if I were them.
That's pretty fair. I think that the problem with him is that in big games, he looked terrible, with the exception of the Oklahoma game in the playoff. That was the one time where he struggled early, but he bounced back and led Alabama to victory. Now, Alec, I'm going to come to you. So when it comes to quarterbacks, Stale mentioned Garrett Nussmeier, and I brought up Ty Simpson outside of Fernando Mendoza. But what about people like Trinidad Chambliss out of Ole Miss? He couldn't get his eligibility for another year. He's going to be eligible for the draft. What do you think his ceiling is?
Well, for that, I just don't know. Because Chambliss, he did lead that magical run for Ole Miss after losing Lane Kiffin to LSU. He's a dynamic two-way quarterback. I could see him as a middle round type of quarterback if he falls to there. If anyone's going to take a chance on him, 4th round, maybe 5th round. If not either those rounds, a 6th round chance could be on Chambliss. It's just hard to predict these types of quarterbacks because we don't see a lot of them. But the danger of drafting him is that he's a 1-year starter, and 1-year starters don't tend to pan out on the NFL level.
Yeah.
You want to look for example on that? Well, Mitch Trubisky. No, not Mitch Trubisky. Anthony Richardson. That's what I'm thinking. Anthony Richardson was a 1-year starter in Florida, flamed out in Indianapolis. Trey Lance, 1-year starter in North Dakota State. Didn't pan out in San Francisco. That was more of injury, but in the very few times that he got a chance to play, whether it be preseason or regular season, yikes. Just don't look at it. Dwayne Haskins, I can give a pass to because his fate was sealed the moment that he was drafted by Washington. He was set up for failure. Kyler Murray was a one-year starter.
Yeah.
He showed flashes of success, but never took full advantage of it. Mac Jones, one-year starter, showed flashes of success in New England, but his development was ruined by means of poor coaching hires in Bill Belichick's later years. He shined in San Francisco, but that was in flashes as well. Might
Correct.
get another chance, whether it be as a backup or starter. Who knows if he stays in San Francisco, but he's a reliable backup at the stage of his career right now. But the point they're trying to make is that you're much better off drafting a multi-year starter out of the NCAA over a one-year starter in the NCAA. That's why I'm putting a red flag on Ty Simpson heading into the draft.
Yeah, and you want to know something? Like you mentioned, one-year starters. I feel like a lot of teams don't go for the eye candy. They go for the quality over quantity. Sometimes that's the main thing. I mentioned it a couple times, but if you want to draft a really good quarterback, you have to have someone who is groomed, someone that spends 2 to 3 years in the system, that knows what they're doing, and someone that can actually has experience in a pro offense in the college ranks that can actually take you far.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you mentioned this whole thing. John put up a really good article on the Shady Sports Network's Facebook page, and he wrote something that I think really stood out to me. He said that long-term quarterbacks are come and gone now, because if you look at the 2021 class, which was supposed to be really successful, remember they hyped up that class, with Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Justin Fields. 4 of those 5 are busts right now if you look at it. And then Trevor Lawrence is still playing with his team, but apparently he's not doing that good. So,
and remember what I said about one-year starters. I almost left off Trubisky, but I looked it up now. He is a one-year starter.
Yeah, he is. He kind of is. So now I want to come to Sale on this one. That big point that I brought up about, that we brought about one-year starters, also that 2021 draft class, and how, we're not seeing long-term sustainable quarterbacks around in the NFL anymore. Do you find that point to be true?
Yeah, I do. And a big reason for that is not just because we have a lack of talent. These coaches are impatient as heck nowadays. I mean, usually I can tell if a guy if he at least has the potential to be developed, or if he's just not it. JJ McCarthy, in my opinion, is not it. But I mean, we looked at Daniel Jones, we looked at Sam Darnold. Like, there's guys who just aren't in the right fit right away and need a better coach, need better development, need a new environment, let alone a good one. And they go to a new team, they flourish. I know this has been a big conversation, but it's not, in my opinion, the problem is not we don't have enough talent anymore. It's these coaches, these front offices, these GMs, they're just so impatient. They want their money now. They want to win now. They want their ratings now. And if a guy's not playing well to start, this isn't like the 2000s where you could throw a guy out for 5 years, he doesn't play that well, or 3 years, doesn't play that well, and then eventually finds his way. Like, we're not going to see that many Peyton Mannings anymore. I mean, he was terrible in the beginning, but then eventually Hall of Fame quarterback.
Right.
And again, a big reason is just the impatience. They don't have time, and even if they do, they don't want to use that time to take a chance. They want their guys ready now. So
yeah, that's a fair point. I think like lack of patience. I think that's the main thing you're trying to say. No patience.
No.
Yeah, these guys don't have any patience these days compared to 2 decades ago. So that's why we're seeing quarterbacks getting rushed and thrown into the flames with low chance of success. So we're seeing a lack of franchise quarterbacks. The closest that we're seeing to a franchise quarterback these days among those quarterbacks that have recently been drafted, Caleb Williams in Chicago.
Yeah. And this is a guy who won the Heisman Trophy in his freshman year, and he was like a 2 to 3 year starter at USC.
Yeah. I think he started at Oklahoma, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was under Spencer.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, as you said, it's the coaches and general managers that are impatient these days and want to get their money's worth now instead of waiting for the right opportunity. Who knows if some of these quarterbacks are going to pan out in the future? But if things go the way that they are, say in Denver, Bo Nix is going to be a very reliable starter in the future.
I like that. I like that point because Bo Nix was in college for 6 years. He was with Oregon for a long time before he finally got drafted by the Denver Broncos. And I think it just speaks volumes. Like, I think patience is a virtue. People say that all the time, but you need to know when the timing is right to pull the trigger. Because when you draft a quarterback in the first round, second round, it's a big investment that you're going to have to take. And if you're not smart about it and you don't think this through, it could cost you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You made a good point.
I mean, look at Sam Darnold. He got drafted to the Jets. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, around the same time, right after he left there, one of, in my opinion, a top 10 quarterback of all time, even though he was, a veteran at that point. Aaron Rodgers went there. He couldn't even win there in that situation. Sam Darnold finally goes to a good team. He flourishes.
Yeah.
They let him go, and then he does it again in Seattle.
All right. First off, you mentioned Sam Darnold. I got to say one thing about that. The fact that the Minnesota Vikings are already thinking about listening to offers for J.J. McCarthy, I think that just shows that this Viking team, number one, they're absolute idiots for letting Sam Darnold walk.
That GM was terrible.
They had him. They had their quarterback in the bag, and they let him walk because they wanted to give their young quarterback a chance to shine. And looking back on the footage of J.J. McCarthy when he was at the University of Michigan, he was nothing special.
No.
Jim Harbaugh hardly let him throw the ball.
Yeah, there's a reason why.
There's a reason why. Like, the ground game and the defense were the main reason why Michigan flourished and won the national championship that year. It wasn't J.J. McCarthy.
No, it wasn't at all. He barely did a thing. And to be honest, I think the only reason that Minnesota even, kept him and just let Darnold walk, I know they did offer him. It's not like they waved him goodbye. They did offer him. It's just Seattle did offer him better. But the point is that they should have given it all for Darnold. And in my opinion, the only reason that they kept McCarthy and let Darnold go is because that draft pick of taking McCarthy, which in my opinion was already a dumb pick, because Bo Nix was right there, but would have looked even worse if they paid Darnold a huge contract and they're like, well, now what do we do with our first
Right. That's a good point.
In my opinion, I think it was just plain fear that basically it was like, okay, well, even though Darnold was great, we have to give McCarthy a chance because we drafted him, even though they really didn't, in the grand scheme of things. I just think it was a huge mistake.
Yeah, but like you mentioned that point about how the Minnesota Vikings will feel like they were dumb if they were paying Sam Darnold higher than J.J. McCarthy. But it's even more dumb to let someone talented who led you to the playoffs to a 14-win season walk out the door and didn't pay him at all. That's what's even more dumb.
Exactly. In their mind, they didn't agree with that. They wanted to go with the guy who could hand the ball off.
Seriously.
Yeah. Thank you, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, says everyone in Michigan.
Yep. Now, we're going to go into the offseason part of it because, like I mentioned, free agency is, I think, less than a week away. We're going to get into what's happened thus far as franchise tags. The Jets franchise tag Breece Hall. Kyle Pitts was franchise tagged by the Atlanta Falcons. George Pickens also got the franchise tag from the Dallas Cowboys. And then Daniel Jones got the transition tag, which is the first time I've ever heard of a transition tag. But if anyone wants to know what a transition tag is, here's what I was able to find out. A transition tag is you're placing a tag on a player and you can guarantee them the money, but while they are placed on that tag, they can talk to other teams. So it's not like the money they're making on the tag is guaranteed officially unless they commit to that team. So that's what the transition tag is. For those of you who are wondering, what is this? Because this was brand new to me when I found this out. So I think more teams could probably do this. Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, it's 50-50, but at the end of the day, tagging in general is 50-50. I mean, it's their decision. I mean, in my opinion, Daniel Jones, he played great the first half of the season before he got hurt. I was very impressed with him, but at the end of the day,
was too.
At the end of the day, he's not old, but he's not getting any younger. That injury definitely didn't help him in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I'm not an Anthony Richardson believer like those people will say, but at the end of the day, he's only 23, I'm pretty sure.
23 or 24.
Like, I mean, he's sitting right there. Like, I mean, they did no, in my opinion, they didn't give like any effort to actually develop him, which first off, everybody knew that was the only way he was ever going to work out is because he was a project quarterback when he got drafted. But yeah, I think more teams will do it. It's like I said, it's not a bad decision.
Alex, so you Sal made a good point about Anthony Richardson and how much his development has kind of relapsed. He hasn't really developed. He hasn't really he had time. He had that one instance where he took himself off out of the game because he was exhausted. So it's just been rough. But back to the transition tag and all that, like we might see more teams do this. But when it comes to the Colts making this transition tag on Daniel Jones, do you think this was the right choice? And if it is the right choice, what does this mean for people like Anthony Richardson down the line?
I think it was the right choice for the Colts because if you look back at last season, he was playing himself a nice season before he suffered a season-ending injury. And I feel this way is if Jones can keep up and keep that same pace from last season into this season once he comes back from injury, which say that he does. Phil Richardson, what it means for him is that he's going to be relegated to a backup role in Indianapolis as for the foreseeable future. If he's not comfortable going on a backup role, then I think he's on his way out of Indy and onto a different team because I don't see him getting starting reps elsewhere unless he's in a truly bad team. It was trying to punt the season away because remember, 1-year starter, you're risking yourself of situations. And I mean, 1-year starter in college, you're risking yourself. The Colts took that risk, backfired. This is not like Josh Allen where he was a multi-year starter at Wyoming. It's less risky per se, even though for his accuracy he concerns there. Right. But that's besides the point. Daniel Jones, this transition tag is more because of the injury situation on Daniel Jones. So it's a wait and see moment. So, and if he does play well, he'll get a bag.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good risk to take. I think Anthony Richardson has run his course, and I think we're just starting to see how his flaws more so than anything, that he can't stay healthy and that he has an attitude. I think that's the big thing. With Daniel Jones, you're going to get someone who can run the offense, and he is a good athletic, physical stature. So I think that's a big plus for him. And I think the Colts, like we mentioned before, had good offensive production with him under center. It's just, can he stay healthy?
That's the big thing.
I mean, at this point, it's can either of them stay healthy, honestly. And I just want to say, I'm pretty sure, even though he's looked more bad than good, I'm pretty sure Anthony Richardson has a winning record as a starter. I'm 99. I think he's 8-7. So
I think you're right.
I'm not saying he's the future. I'm just saying at the end of the day, he has a winning record. You might as well give him a shot. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure he's 23 years old. That's younger than some rookies right now. So at this point, Daniel Jones they're both 50-50s. You might as well give him some playing time, whether he's actually starting or not.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. All right, so we're going to get into some trades now. We're going to start off with the first trade that really hit. This comes from Detroit and Houston. David Montgomery was traded from the Detroit Lions to the Houston Texans for a 5th-round pick. Sonic and Knuckles are bidding each other farewell. And I saw that as almost after this happened, the Texans cut Joe Mixon, who didn't play at all this past year. So it looks like David Montgomery is going to be the starting running back for the Houston Texans. The Texans were a running back factory last year because they haven't had a really good running back since Arian Foster. I think that was the last time they had a really good running back. So you look at Woody Marks, I'm not really too high on. So I think that Dave Montgomery, I think you just plug him in. I think he can rush for 1,000 yards. I'm not really too sure about Woody Marks full time. I think he's your backup running back. But the draft value they gave up for David Montgomery, I mean, a 5th-round pick, I mean, that's very cheap draft capital right there.
What's a steal in my opinion?
That's literally a low ball on the Lions' part.
It is. It really is. So I think
Oh, breaking news.
What's
Khalil
up?
Mack is returning to the Chargers on a 1-year deal
The Khalil Mack's coming out of retirement. We heard about that. So he just signed a 1-year deal?
with the Chargers.
That's good because they're probably losing away.
Yeah, they probably are. So that's big for the Chargers defense. They need to keep their defense intact. That was probably the heart and soul of their team last year when Justin Herbert was inconsistent towards the end and into the playoffs. So good for Khalil Mack coming back out of retirement. Is taking it for one more year. First round pick in 2014, and has been very good. He's had a very good NFL career. Detroit, I have a suggestion for them is if they want to keep a Sonic and Knuckles thing going on, now that David Montgomery is gone, I do have one suggestion. Kenneth Walker is waiting in the wings.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, I know John's going to react to that, but I know for a fact that Jake Hogger and Patrick Rush would love to have Kenneth Walker on the Lions.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Because if you look at how Kenneth Walker III was this postseason, he was a man possessed this year. And he won Super Bowl MVP. And, I made that big clip of me foreshadowing that Kenneth Walker was going to have a good game in the Super Bowl. I was right. But at the same time, it makes the most sense for Detroit. That's the way they want to play football, have a good 1-2 punch at running back. Jahmyr Gibbs is a gazelle. The dude can run. He's almost like a Barry Sanders with how fast and how elusive he can be. And I think Kenneth Walker can complement that beautifully.
Yeah. Kenneth Walker, it can bring the power on the game to him.
Yeah, I mean, he can do everything. He's fast and
So basically, this is not really a Sonic and Knuckles in that case. This is more like a Sonic and Shadow.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. But it kind of mind boggles me a little bit. We didn't really get into Kenneth Walker not getting the franchise tag on previous episodes. I want to get into it here. Why would you let your Super Bowl MVP walk? Because I feel like now you're going to put everything on Zach Charbonnet as your starting running back moving forward in Seattle. And I know that Kenneth Walker III and Charbonnet shared split carries. I think it was like a 70-30 split in favor of Walker in most cases. But to let your Super Bowl MVP walk, that doesn't really happen too often. And he didn't even get the franchise tag. Like, this is unexplainable. So why do you think Seattle went this direction?
I mean, I'm just as clueless as anybody else. They have a disturbing obsession with Zach Charbonnet. I like Charbonnet. I have nothing against the guy. He's a great power back. But, I mean, if you look at the red zone, shares, Walker was non-existent to even show up on the field in the red zone. But I'm pretty sure like the past 2 or 3 years. Like every time they get in the red zone, they're like, put Zach out there. Like Charbonnet, Walker, that's the reason that his production has gone down a little bit and that he doesn't get that many touchdowns is because he never gets the opportunity to get touchdowns unless it's like past the 30. Because they love Charbonnet. Again, I like him, but they're very, very confident in him. And to your question, I don't have a full answer. I really don't because it's mind-boggling. He was your Super Bowl MVP. He was the only one who did anything on offense in the actual Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, I in my opinion, he was half the reason you guys won it because May had multiple opportunities. The whole Patriots offense had multiple opportunities almost the whole game really to come back. And again, their Seahawks defense was elite that game. I'm not bad-tracking them. It's just I really don't have that much of an answer. Kenneth Walker is, in my opinion, elite now. So there's no reason to let him walk. I don't care if he's worth a lot of money. There's a reason he's worth a lot of money. You should at minimum be tagging him. It shocked me when they didn't tag him. I think it's a stupid decision. Yeah.
John Welch couldn't even give me an answer as to why Seattle was doing this.
I can't really either.
Yeah. There's just no answer, clearly. And letting him walk would be a huge mistake on Seattle's part. Where do they go if he goes elsewhere? Do they go with Travis Etienne? Do they go with, do I say, Rico Dowdle?
Oh, God. There's a lot. Like, Charbonnet, like, most teams nowadays need a 1-2 punch at running back. And I think that Seattle had their 1-2 punch Now you're going to have to change it completely because you don't want to bring Kenneth Walker back because you don't want to pay him. And the running back market is getting – I would say the running back market is getting better over the years. I think it's better than it was 3-4 years ago. I think running backs are more valued now than they were 3-4 years ago. I don't think they're the most prolific position on the field, but they're definitely seen as valuable.
They're more valuable now, and there's 3 players we have to thank for that: Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs.
Correct.
They proved the entire world why you need a running back, and I'm glad they did because, I played running back, and to see them just get thrown to the wall like that's disheartening to see because I get passing's more friendly now these days, but at the end of the day, if you play an elite defense, elite passing defense like the Patriots, this Super Bowl, in my opinion, was even a bigger factor to prove you need a really good running back. Because I love Darnold, but he was getting trampled in that Super Bowl. And without Walker, I'm not saying the Seahawks would have lost, but it would have been a way closer game.
Yeah, especially with how things were going in that contest.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It would have been closer had it not been for Walker. But that shows the importance of a valuable running back that is to your team. You see, every team that has won the Super Bowl has had a key running back win for them. It was playing at the peak or close enough to their peak at their career. Say, Kenneth Walker, Saquon Barkley, Isaiah Pacheco twice, Sony Michel. Then you go to Leonard Fournette.
Yep.
Damian Williams. Don't forget about him. He was playing at the peak of his career with
That's
the
right.
Chiefs.
That's right.
Hey, he was good when he was on the field.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. I don't know where he goes next. I think that the problem is there aren't too many teams that will, other than the Kansas State Chiefs. I think the Kansas State Chiefs might want a running back. If they don't take Jeremiah Love in the draft, they're probably going to end up looking at Kenneth Walker and maybe signing him because if you look at the Chiefs, they are also a running back factory. They had Isaiah Pacheco, who's washed. They have Brashard Smith, who's young and inexperienced. And they have Kareem Hunt, who's, again, washed. So their backfield needs an upgrade. And I think Kenneth Walker could do that. But at the same time, if you want explosive runs after explosive runs in the backfield, I think Jeremiah Love would bring that more than Kenneth Walker would.
Yeah. I've been hyping up Jeremiah Love to Kansas City ever since their elimination.
It's 50-50 whether he drops to 9, though, because one side of it, he's an elite running back, and you should take him. But the other side, well, we don't like drafting running backs high, even if they deserve to be drafted high. The only reason I don't really see Walker going to KC is because they're in cap space purgatory right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They did restructure Mahomes' contract, which put up that cap, and they just cut Jawan Taylor, which is hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah, they're working on it, but they're still not in good shape in the cap, though.
Yeah, and I think their Super Bowl window, maybe I wouldn't say closed completely, but I think their Super Bowl window and like their dynasty is starting to close just little by little by little.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we know from the route of how things go, if they want to do a UH Patriots run, do you feel like there's the feeling that they're gonna complete the second half of their dynasty a few years from now?
They could do that. I mean, it's happened. It's happened.
I mean, I'm not saying they will, but they could.
It's possible. It's just the only reason I don't really see that happening is because Andy Reid's not going to be there very much longer. He's old.
They brought back Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator, which hallelujah if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, that was the best thing they did. Matt Nagy was not cutting the mustard, and now the Giants have them. So, oh boy, that's going to be harsh for me. And actually, speaking of the Chiefs, now that we bring them up, they did make a trade a couple days ago. They traded Trent McDuffie, one of their better corners, to the Los Angeles Rams for a first, fifth, and sixth round pick this year and a third round pick next year. The Rams are going to have the 13th pick in the NFL draft in 2026. And think of it, this team was in the NFC Championship game and one of the better teams in the NFL. They're not the 13th overall pick, but I think we're mistakenly giving credit to the Rams for getting Trent McDuffie because I think a lot of times when trades like this happen, more times than not, people look at the player as, okay, the team won the trade. But look at the capital the Chiefs got. I mean, they got they got 4 picks out of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not when the Raiders trade away Khalil Mack.
Yeah. One other thing is that the Chiefs, they don't have to pay McDuffie, at least not nearly as much as they would have if they kept him now. That's another big W. But I like the picks that they got. Honestly, I think it was a good trade for both sides because now we don't know what the Rams are going to do with that pick because everybody was like they're either going O-line or they're going corner because Kobe Durant in that NFC Championship game divisional was. So I don't think that it's going to be very, very questionable to see what they do with that draft pick. Like I said, I think both sides won. McDuffie is a very, very good corner, but they don't have to pay him. Again, not nearly as much. I think both sides won.
And you got to remember also the Rams are probably looking at the secondary and trying to strengthen it because they did sign Cam Curl back to a 3-year deal as well. So the Rams are trying to bolster their secondary as best as they could, or at least keep the key contributors from that secondary back and bringing them back for next year. And the Cam Curl was one of the better corners. I would say their secondary was amazing last year in Los Angeles, but it was good enough to get them that far.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this was with Emmanuel Forbes as their CB1.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. In other news across the NFL, we're going to go into the Kyler Murray saga. His time in Arizona as probably most likely going to end after 6 or 7 years. The Cardinals said that they're going to cut him if they can't find a trade partner. Think of it. This was the number 1 overall pick, played at Oklahoma, and unfortunately now his career's kind of dwindled down. Now my question to both of you is, what's next for him? Does he get traded to a team? Do you think he gets cut and signs a contract with a team like Minnesota or the Jets? Let's start with Sale first. What's next for the Kyler Murray career path?
I mean, it could be any one of those teams. I mean, a team I feel like that people haven't really talked about enough in the whole where's Kyler Murray going to go is, I'm not saying he's going there, but it's the Falcons. Because I'm not saying it'd be the best fit, but Michael Penix, injury after injury after injury, man. And he's looked good as a starter, but he has not looked great, which in my opinion is Raheem Morris was not a good coach, but I don't like giving many excuses to Penix, which hurts a little bit because I really liked Penix in that draft. I actually thought, even though it was really dumb to give Kirk that big contract and then take a quarterback with their first round pick, I did like the Penix draft pick more than most people did, but he just the injuries, man. He can't stay healthy, and he hasn't looked elite yet. So I think Kyler could go to the Falcons, maybe. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think that's kind of like a dark horse maybe for a landing spot because I know everyone's saying the Jets. In my opinion, the only reason I don't see him going to the Jets, well, there's a lot of reasons, but the main one is I don't think he's going to sell himself that short. I think I'm not saying he's an egotistical guy. I'm just saying I think he's worth – I think that he thinks he's more worth than the Jets. So I could see him – I mean, people are saying the Steelers. It's just the thing is that, like, none of these places look like fits at all for him, which – a big reason for that is because he's not that good anymore, in my opinion, at least. But he could go to any one of those teams. It's going to be what I think could happen is that the Steelers will say no. I'm pretty sure another landing spot, like rumor, was the Colts. I don't see that happening. The Falcons try to ride it with Penix, and then there's only one spot left to go, which is the Jets. And then he's like, fine. And then he goes to the Jets.
Right.
That's kind of what I see happening.
And I think another valid reason for this is because the Falcons did cut Kirk Cousins too.
Yeah.
That 4-year, $180 million contract that they gave Kirk Cousins is now null and void.
Yeah.
Although it's a big cap hit because they cut him and they gave him all this money and promised him all this money, and it didn't last long.
Oh, and one other team and I know this team is the favorites to land him, the Vikings.
Mm.
Yeah. Remember the whole conversation about GMs being impatient with young quarterbacks? Well, in the case of JJ McCarthy, he just can't throw, period.
Yeah, he can't.
So
He's
Minnesota
terrible.
is looking for someone with who's proven himself to be good under center. And Kyler Murray is good, but he hasn't really shown that next step. But at this point, he's the top option available in the quarterback free agent market, which speaks to how bad the QB free agent market is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks that are going to be moving around in free agency, not a lot of names stand out. I know Geno Smith was cut by the Raiders. Whoop-de-doo! Like, it's just one of those things where it's like the names that are on there, they're out there in the market, are not going to be that big upgrades for people that are looking to move to new teams.
I do like Willis, though.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
Oh, Fernando Mendoza, here's your plane ticket to Vegas.
Pretty much. And remember, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You got to remember that, too.
And speaking of Vegas, Max Crosby's going to Baltimore.
That is correct. Thank you, Alec, for setting that transition. So yesterday it was announced that the Las Vegas Raiders gave Max Crosby what he wanted. Crosby was irritable towards the Raiders. He even had a discussion with part owner Tom Brady about his future there. And owner Mark Davis basically said, you know what? We'll ship you out to Baltimore. And and he was traded there for a 2026 and 2027 first-round pick. So the Ravens gave up a little bit to get Max Crosby, one of the better pass rushers in the game. I think that this is a good thing for Baltimore's defense because ever since Terrell Suggs left the team, they haven't really had a strong pass rusher on that front four. And I think Max Crosby, being the freak athlete that he is, I think will be perfect for this defense. And it will at least give them a spark because Baltimore's defense was one of the worst in the league last year. And part of it was because their lack of penetration up front. And I think this is perfect for them.
It is. Because throughout the time frame, they treated Kyle Van Noy as their top pass rusher, which, granted to him, his career is impressive when going to a stint in Baltimore, given that he learned that the New England system, was a journeyman, and truly broke out with the Ravens. But if he is your top pass rusher, you need to address it if you want to land a true superstar. Max Crosby's the guy. And this is key for Jesse Minter if he wants to get his defense back to the top. Him, Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks, Nate Wiggins. The thing is, though, do you really trust your inside linebacker room of Roquan Smith and Trenton Simpson? At this point, Roquan's just a name who's living off reputation.
Yeah.
And nothing more than that. But the edges and the defensive line, you're all set there. The only weakness I see with that Ravens defense is the inside linebacker room. That needs to be addressed, preferably at the draft. But when you have Max Crosby on your team, you get instant credibility with your pass rush.
And they've been looking for a good inside linebacker ever since Ray Lewis retired. And they've been trying to find it. And they're pinning it on Roquan Smith that he's going to be the next man up to fill in the void of Ray Lewis. And he just hasn't quite done it yet. So,
to be fair, he did initially, but he fell off.
True.
Yeah. Well, remember they let Patrick Queen go too.
That's right. That's correct.
I wasn't a big fan of that. I mean, he's not elite, but I was like, who else are you going to play there? But one thing I wanted to say about the Max Crosby trade is what's Lamar's excuse now if he doesn't win the Super Bowl in at least the next 2 to 3 years? Because he's got an elite defensive coach. He's got Derrick Henry. He now has a very, very elite defense. I mean, in my opinion, besides the inside linebacker room, the only weakness I see is their safeties are great, but their corners were terrible this year. Nate Wiggins, I'm pretty sure he was like bottom 5 in total yards given up. And how am I blanking on this? Marlon Humphrey, he is one of the most inconsistent corners that I have ever watched in my time of watching the NFL. He is either elite or terrible, and there's no in between. But I think this is a very deep corner and linebacker class this draft. I think they'll draft a couple guys, maybe develop them. But the main thing is that Lamar has no more excuses. If he doesn't win the Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years, which I still don't even really think he will, there's no excuse for him anymore because everybody, it's pretty much the argument is who has more excuses right now? Josh Allen not winning a Super Bowl or Lamar Jackson not winning a Super Bowl? And most people have been saying, well, Josh Allen's defense. And people are like, well, what about Lamar's defense? Lamar has actually had some, besides this past year, before the past 2 years, he actually had some of the best defenses in the league, and yet he still couldn't get there.
Yeah.
So at this point, there's no more excuses. If you don't win the Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 seasons, Lamar Jackson, I'm sorry. It's just sad. It's disappointing, and it's inexcusable. It just is.
Yeah. You think of it right now. I feel like the narrative always pushes blame for Lamar and for Josh Allen as to why they didn't win the Super Bowls. I mean, Josh Allen is a alien athlete, but always gets let down in the weirdest of ways when it comes to the playoffs. And then now they scapegoat Sean McDermott, and they bring in the new offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, as the new head coach. So that's not an excuse now for Josh Allen to get back to the Super Bowl, especially because of the cohesiveness that he and Joe Brady have, because Joe Brady was his offensive coordinator this past year. So that's an excuse right there. But like the Lamar Jackson thing, yes, the defense was bad last year, but firing John Harbaugh just seemed irrational to me. And the fact that the Ravens went through with it, I think, was even more shocking. Hey, he landed in the Giants' laps. I can't complain about that. But as a whole, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, well, are you just trying to pin the blame on someone else that didn't deserve the blame? That's what's going on in Baltimore. And I think the reason why the Ravens took the bait on this Max Crosby potential trade, which happened, was because Jesse Minter, as a defensive-minded coach, wanted to beef up his defense, and he took a defensive stud that he knew was going to help his unit out.
Yeah, it was a great decision too. Jesse Minter did amazing as the coordinator for the Chargers. I mean, he's great. I really like it a lot. And one more thing I want to say about the Max Crosby trade is all it took was 2 first-rounders, not even both the same year. That was it. Like, I'm looking at my Bucks right now, and I'm like, did you guys not even try to offer then? Because I'm not saying we should have gotten him, but like, I feel like that. I feel like the Raiders could have gotten a little bit more out of that, and that really has me looking at Jason. That like, did you even try? Did you even try? But anyway, it's a great thing for Baltimore.
Yeah. All right. So to close out the NFL segment, we got a couple more segments left. We're gonna go over who was cut by their respective teams. There were a few big names that were cut. Stephon Diggs, one of the key receivers for the Patriots, was cut. Jonnu Smith, tight end for the Steelers, was cut. And then Bobby Okereke, one of the Giants' top linebackers, or their top linebacker overall, was cut. It saves $9 million in cap space, so for the Giants, it's not that big a deal. They also restructured Devin Singletary's contract. So that way we know that we're not going to get Kenneth Walker no matter what. And quite frankly, the Giants don't need Kenneth Walker because they got Cam Scottaboo, who's coming back. They got Tyrone Tracy, who's good. And now they got Devin Singletary, who's a good complementary to both those guys. So I think the Giants running back room is good. But the Bobby Okereke release, I'm a little bit surprised about that because, like I said, one of the top linebackers that they have. And on the other side of it all, the Giants defense is going to have a better supporting cast. They got a new defensive coordinator, and I think that Okereke would have worked well under his scheme. So I think having all the pieces that we had last year, I know our defense was sucked in the fourth quarter, but at the same time, the personnel was good. The coaching was bad. So I would have liked to have seen Okereke stay in the system, but apparently that wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And also, I mentioned Jonnu Smith. Alec, are you surprised about this?
I am not. He's coming off one of the worst seasons ever by a tight end. Not on his career. One of the worst seasons by a tight end in terms of receiving yards per catch. So, and I don't know what on most days I don't know what he was doing on the team. It's just being just a guy on the roster to fill in Arthur Smith's delusions. For all of that, So cutting him was more of a net positive for that matter. And to say the least, why was he included when we traded away Minka? I would be fine just bringing in Jalen Ramsey for that matter and a draft pick. But to include Jonnu Smith on that trade, that made no sense to me. You're just taking time off of Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. Now, if we do trade away Freiermuth, which I don't expect happening, but in the future, if we were to trade him away, I would expect some draft picks in return if we were to free up space for Darnell Washington and to have get him some more reps. He's a beast at the tight end position. Why not feed him some more? He'd be more beneficial to the offensive plans than what Jonnu provided. Oh, bye, Felicia. You won't be missed, Jonnu.
Darnell Washington was one physical specimen.
Dude, he's a freak.
Yes.
He's a tight end, but he looks like a defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, we all know why Jonnu Smith, came with Dallas. Arthur Smith has one of the weirder, obsessions with a player in the league that we've ever seen. I mean, 3 different teams that he's got him on now. So, yeah, I think it was good that y'all got rid of Jonnu. I mean, Darnell Washington. I mean, you guys mostly used him as a blocker for the first 2 seasons, and now, I mean, why not throw him the ball? We
Seriously.
saw what he did with the ball this year. He's a freak. I wish we had him.
Yeah, he needs his reps.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay, so to close out the NFL segment, we are going to go into what each of our 3 teams are going to do, or what we want them to do this offseason. Giants, we have the Buccaneers, and we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to start us off first. So, when it comes to the New York Giants, I hope that we beef up our secondary a little bit more. I like the offense that we have right now. I think our offensive line improved now that we see what can happen when Andrew Thomas is fully healthy. I know we're going to get Malik Neighbors back and Cam Scottaboo back. I don't think we're going to get Wan'Dale Robinson back, which kind of sucks because he was the best receiver when Malik Neighbors went down. But if the Giants were to get a secondary receiver, if we can't get one in the first round, try to get the best receiver possible in the second round. I know that Sonny Styles is linked to us when it comes to corners, which is what I mentioned before. But if it's either going to be Sonny Styles or Carnell Tate or Caleb Downs as our first round pick, either or I would be fine with. But I think corners in the NFL, especially at this day and age, are very, very valuable. And I think that the Giants need to make sure that their DBs are right because their DBs over the last couple of years that they drafted have not panned out at all. So anything can be with that secondary is good. I also think that John Harbaugh is going to probably make things really good and a really good offensive scheme for Jackson Dart. Dart had a really good, promising rookie year. I know he started late, but I think that overall, I like where this team is headed, but they got to put the wins up to prove me right. Sel, your turn.
I mean, we need to do a lot of things, the Bucs, because we have a lot of people leaving this year. I mean, Mike Evans is our number 1. He's probably not coming back. It's going to break my heart watching him play for another team, but at the end of the day, I want him to get another ring, and I know he wants to go to a ring possible team, so I wish him the best. I've already mentally accepted that he's gone, even if somehow the miracle he comes back. Our defense, we have this defensive genius, this defensive-minded head coach, yet our defense, every single year that we've been under Todd Bowles, has been the problem. Every single year. Our offense did completely fall off the second half of the season, but our defense needs to be addressed now because Logan Hall, apart from Vita Vea, our main edge / tackle, he plays both, is leaving. That's okay with me because I didn't like that pick anyway. Greg Gaines is a free agent. Hassan Reddick is a free agent. Like Deion Jones is a free agent. Jamel Dean is a free agent even. Which I hope first off, we need to re-sign Dean because this was the first year he actually looked very good for us this year. Because he looked terrible the past couple of years. This year, he actually proved it to me. And if we extended Zion McCollum, who was statistically I'm pretty sure a bottom 6 corner this year in the NFL, you need to extend Jamel Dean. You have to. He's our number 1 corner. we do have some young ones. We got Jacob Parrish, who shined this year. I like Benjamin Morrison, but we need to address that secondary badly because our safeties are great. We got Antoine Winfield, who in my opinion is a top 5 safety, and we have Tyke Smith, he's shined under us. But we need to address the secondary. But even more than the secondary, we need a pass rush. We need a pass rush badly. The problem is it makes no sense. We have so much talent at the pass rush spot. We have Vita Vea. We have Kalijah Cansey. We had Hassan Reddick. Like, we had Elijah Roberts, who actually looked very good as a rookie this year. Anthony Walker got hurt, but he'll be coming back this year. I'm excited to see what he does, but you need a pass rush. And the worst part about not having a good pass rush is our head coach blitzes. Apart from Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, I'm pretty sure we blitz more than anybody in the league. But the fact that we don't have a good pass rush when we blitz the most is a question mark. So we need one thing I really want us to do is to sign a free agent, which I like Clevon Chase on. He shined this year with New England. I think he could be a good one. Possibly trading. I know it's very 50-50, and there has been talks of it before, but I would like us to try to trade for maybe like Kevon Thibodeau. I know he's not elite, but I mean, at the end of the day, we need something because who are we going to have edge rush instead of Kevon Thibodeau? Anthony Nelson? I mean, we need somebody there, and we're going to draft somebody there, and it's going to be good. It better be. But we need to address the defense, and we need to also restructure that offensive line a little bit because Bucky Irving, who, in my opinion, could be a top 10 running back if he's healthy, was not able to do anything against our offensive line, even though going into the season, we had a really good offensive line. But Tristan Wirfs got hurt. Ben Bredesen got hurt. Cody Mock was out for the season. Luka Decky missed a lot of games. Like, we missed a lot. We had a lot of injuries last year. So my big three things for the Bucs is address the entire defense, linebackers, corners, edges, pretty much everybody. And you just need to find a way to utilize his Todd Bowles' strengths because he has many, many strengths. There's a reason why he's known as a defensive-minded head coach and a defensive genius. But it's time for a change in how we play defense. Address the defense. We need to get a franchise, like a star linebacker. That's why I said before, maybe get C.J. Allen, maybe Anthony Hill, maybe even, who's a sleeper in my opinion, Harold Perkins out of LSU. Like, just get a good linebacker, get a good edge, re-sign some people for once, Jamel Dean, and that's what we need to do, essentially. It's just address the entire defense, and we'll be okay.
Fair. That's a fair point. I like your in-depth analysis. Alec?
I'll have to say for the Steelers, it all starts with wide receiver number 2. We have DK Metcalf, who's our wide receiver number 1, but he is consistently inconsistent on most days. Jaylen Warren is our top running back. There are going to be a lot of teams in the mix for top running backs like Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Rico Dowdle. Feel Etienne and Warren are 1-2 similar with one another, but I'll have to say I don't have any faith in Art Rooney to pursue some of the top guys, knowing how cheap he is for that part. Probably a change of pace in who runs the organization would be better off if Dan Rooney Jr. can get a look at truly running this team, because RD2 is not the guy to do it. I heard rumors about Aaron Rodgers returning. I am not a fan of that. And personally, if he comes back, it's going to be a sad, sad final year for those who are wanting to witness another season. Safeties is another one because Chuck Clark and Kyle Duggar is our safety backfield. We can definitely use some improvement on the safety room. Corners-wise, Joey Porter Jr. is our CB1, and we can get some more James Pierre for some time reps on the opposite side, but that could also be addressed on the opposite side. Jalen Ramsey as our slots, not a bad idea. He did have some good games in the slot, but at this stage of his career, we have to start looking at corners aside from JPJ because the secondary is starting to look like a weakness in the years after, in this days after we traded away Minka Fitzpatrick.
Right.
And then he could use a third tight end on the system behind Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. You could also beef up this offensive line because Isaac Sumalo is a free agent, and we don't know what the future holds for Broderick Jones at left tackle. We absolutely need to keep Derek Harmon as their starting defensive lineman. It's going to be his second year, and he looked terrific as a run stopper. Running back room is something to address. We could look at it at the draft, but if we're going wide receiver to go right opposite DK Metcalf, we're looking possibly at the draft. Mekhi Lemon could be, who knows, even though there are not some good things about him in recent days for his character.
Yeah,
but,
I was about to say that. After the interviews, Mekhi Lemon actually might drop to y'all because that was tough to watch. But.
Yeah, because and knowing our reputation of what we have on wide receivers, the wide receiver room the last few years for the Steelers, for us, has been basically a crash out factory. Antonio Brown, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. Jury's out on DK Metcalf, but as of now, if Mekhi Lemon falls to us, it's going to be the continuation of the crash out factory that is our wide receiver room. Which, honestly, he's talented, but you could do a lot better than him.
Okay. All right. Now, before we actually go into our second hour, Sale was with us for the first hour. Sale, we appreciate you. Now, before we let you go, where can people find you, buddy?
I mean, mainly, I'm gonna start post. I'm actually planning on making a TikTok where I'm gonna post, but mainly you can find me on Twitter at SailorJCSmith13, and we'll be making. Me and my buddy are starting a podcast. If you guys, I was actually thinking about possibly. Once we started up, we were actually thinking about, maybe having you guys on there if you want.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey.
So we're starting that up. If you want to find that, it's at FTFcast on Twitter. But yeah, thank you for having me, man.
Awesome. All right, the one and only Sale Smith. Sale, thank you so much.
Thanks, man. I appreciate y'all.
Have a great day.
Good luck with the rest of the cast.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Now, before we actually enter the second hour where we have NHL trade deadline talk as well as March Madness talk, we do have to give a shout out to our guy, DAS Technology Consulting. DAS Technology Consulting is all about third-party maintenance and hardware solutions that meet your data center demands. For more information, here's Darren Sirianni. Take a listen.
Our mission is to deliver high quality, scalable, and secure data center services that ensure seamless operations for clients across various industries, offering best-in-class data center services all under one roof.
Thank you so much, Darren Sirianni, for everything you do. And thank you, DAS Technology Consulting, for watching the show consistently. Anyways, welcome to hour number 2 of 4 Square Sports, episode number 37, The Last Push. Matt Sirianni, Alec Nava here. We had a great conversation with Sale Smith just now, and now we're going to go into college basketball and also the NHL trade deadline talks. Alec's been all over that the last week or so, and there's been a lot of amazing trades for teams that are trying to make contention. It's just all going to go down, and that's how we're going to start things off in the second hour. So we're going to start off with March Madness first. Miami, Ohio is perfect. They had to go to overtime to beat Ohio last night, 110-108 the final. But I got to tell you, to see a team have a perfect regular season, it's just unbelievable to me because the last time there was a perfect season, it was during the COVID year with very little fans when Gonzaga did it. And I can tell you right now, Alec, when seeing a team do a perfect season, it's actually kind of special, wouldn't you say?
It is. And for such, seeing Miami of Ohio achieve a perfect season, and it's not easy by any means. 31-0 in a regular season is an accomplishment by any team, no matter which conference that you're in. Big conference, small conference, doesn't matter. This is history right here. And of course, Miami of Ohio achieved it in an epic, an instant classic, and dare we say to some, the game of the year.
Yeah. If the broadcasters on ESPN2 said it great, it felt like a heavyweight fight. It really did. It was the battle of the brick. Miami, Ohio hadn't won in Ohio in 15 years. And they did it in overtime to accomplish a perfect season. Like I said, very few teams have done this over the last 50 years. And Miami, Ohio is among there. Now, the problem with Miami, Ohio is even though they had a perfect regular season, people are still doubting whether or not they deserve an at-large bid if they don't, in fact, win the MAC tournament. Now, they start the MAC tournament on Thursday when they take on UMass in the quarterfinals. But I think if you're Miami, Ohio, you don't want to even think of an at-large bid. You want to erase all doubts and win the MAC tournament.
Yeah, you want to win the MAC tournament outright because that'll erase all the doubts. But here, nonetheless, we can say this, that I'll say Miami of Ohio, no matter the outcome, they deserve to be in March Madness. If you go through the regular season and go undefeated in the regular season, you deserve a March Madness bid. That's 100% for sure. Even though the MAC is not a strong conference, Miami of Ohio showed that they can beat teams in many different ways. The thriller, the blowout, the suffocation, even the effect of the cardiac, like overtime thrilling wins, like what they did against Ohio, even buzzer beaters. They can provide you all of that. I feel that this is a team heading into March Madness. Should they make it there, I think this is a team that can win their first game. I really do.
Yeah, I think they can absolutely. I feel like if this team wins the MAC, which they're expected to, they can win the first round. I think they can do that. I think after the round of 32, when you're facing, a 3 seed or a 2 seed, because right now Miami Ohio is projected to be an 11 seed, which is fair given the fact that their schedule was not so tough. Although our good friend John Welch, who is MIA tonight, did show us a little interesting note that said that Miami Ohio did contact schools like BYU, Pitt, Ohio State, and other schools that Miami Ohio contacted them and asked them to be on their schedule, and they all declined. So it's not like Miami Ohio didn't try to have tough opponents.
They tried, but ultimately it all fell apart. And honestly, I think Pitt dodged a bullet here, in my opinion, because had my Pitt Panthers faced off against Miami of Ohio, we would have lost to them. And I'm being completely honest.
That's fair. I'm glad you're being honest about that. Now, one person who isn't a believer in Miami, Ohio is former Auburn coach Bruce Pearl, who now works for TNT. And he said, and I quote, Miami, Ohio does not deserve to be an NCAA tournament team. They didn't play a tough schedule. Auburn deserves to be there because we play a top 5 schedule. We play a tough conference. Who did they beat? Who did they play? Yada, yada, yada. And to that, I'll say this about Bruce Pearl. How much smoke are you inhaling every single day?
Where's my salt shaker? I got to bring it up from the kitchen because this guy is salty.
Seriously. And he's bringing up Auburn, the team that he used to coach. Can I just say something about Auburn for a second? You're 16-14 and losing to Alabama right now as we speak.
Yeah. Oh, let me pull out the list of teams that Auburn lost to this year. Let's see. They lost to number 7 Michigan, lost to number 2 Arizona, they lost to number 6 Purdue, number 23 Georgia, number 19 Vanderbilt, number 21 Arkansas. That's 6 teams that are ranked that Auburn lost to, and they're trading around 500. Oh, mind you, several years ago, they lost to 13th seeded Yale in March Madness.
Yeah.
So take Bruce Pearl's words with a shaker of salt for what it is. Oh, and by the way, your best player, Johni Broome, he's now in the NBA.
Yep. So, the fact that you're throwing Auburn in here, and I love the fact that Joe Lunardi of ESPN basically took what Bruce Pearl said and basically just roasted him on their bracketology update. Basically saying, let the bracketologists do the work for you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate Joe Lunardi for saying that. Let the bracketologists do the work. Bruce Pearl is all talk, and Auburn doesn't back up their resume. And that's the truth. Miami of Ohio, yes, they didn't face up against a ranked team, but their undefeated regular season says we deserve a chance to be in March Madness. It's about representing your conference.
Yeah, and like if the committee is smart, they would do the right thing. And if Miami Ohio doesn't win the MAC, you would do the right thing and at least put them as a last four in team, and they would have to go to Dayton to play in the first four, which is fine.
That's fine. If they don't win the MAC, they're a first 14.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's totally fine. At least they're in the dance.
Yeah,
but like,
go ahead.
So what I was gonna say was like being in the first four, it's a sucky position to be in because you got to play that extra game. But at least you're in the dance to begin with.
Exactly. You're in the dance to begin with, and while you're going to travel over to Dayton in the first four, you at least get to represent your conference. You at least get the chance to play for something bigger.
Yeah, like it's fine. If they get in the first, if they don't win the MAC, if they get in the first four, fine. I don't care. This team just deserves to be in there. I don't care who they played. They have the perfect record to prove it.
Yeah, so if they make it as an 11th seed, that's good. So it's for that matter, Miami of Ohio would go up on the road to face. Well, right now CBS has them as a 12th seed. They'll be facing up against Arkansas. And honestly, I like Miami of Ohio's chances.
I do, because Arkansas is very up and down. And then according to ESPN, they're facing, I think they're supposed to face Kentucky or some SEC school, according to ESPN, Joe Lenardi. So ESPN and CBS have very different seedings for Miami, Ohio. So they're not consistent, which is kind of a problem.
They don't align. So if you were to go somewhere in the middle and say the 11th seed would be a fair spot.
I agree. I think 11 is fine. And they'll probably get an SEC school, which is also fine.
Yeah.
So that's the Miami, Ohio talk. Excuse me. So while we are talking about Miami, Ohio, I do want to mention that Champ Week did start. Conference championships did start for the mid-major schools. And I want to give a quick shout out to one school, the first school to clinch an NCAA championship berth. That would be LIU Brooklyn. The LIU Brooklyn Sharks clinched their spot in the NCAA tournament by winning against Wagner in the NEC semifinal. They'll be playing Mercyhurst in the championship of the NEC conference. Now, why am I saying they made it even though they didn't win the title? Here's why. Mercyhurst is in year 2 of a 3-year transition period from Division 2 to Division 1. It is because of this that Mercyhurst does not qualify for March Madness. So LIU Brooklyn will take that spot.
It's strange, but somehow, some way true. So I feel Long Island University would make it in as a 16th seed, if I'm saying correct.
Yes, they're going to be a 16th seed. And they'll probably play in the first 4 as a conference champion or one of the lower ranked conference champions out there.
So conference representation is what matters. They might get smoked in the first round, but they'll have a smile on their faces because they know they've won their conference.
Exactly. And I think that even though, like, this almost reminds me of how FDU made the March Madness tournament as a 16 seed a couple years ago. Remember, they didn't win their conference tournament the year they made it to March Madness a couple years ago. They won the first 4, and then when they got to the first round, they shocked Purdue.
FDU, believe it, says Andrew Catalan.
Yep, I remember that line, Andrew Catalan. That famous line. So there's a lot more college basketball that we're going to get into. There's still we also have the Ohio Valley Conference title game tonight between Morehead State and Tennessee State. Winner of that game will win the OVC Conference tournament and will go dancing as well. We also have the ASUN, the Horizon, as well as the Sun Belt Conference Championships that are also underway this week. And we'll also start the Power 4 conferences. We'll start their tournaments sometime this Tuesday. So, Champ Week's on the horizon, and March Madness is near.
Yeah, tomorrow, Big South Conference Championship, High Point versus Winthrop. The rematch.
That's correct, yeah. The rematch.
Yes, because tomorrow, whoever wins will get into March Madness. Winthrop, remember, last year, High Point overcame a 15-point deficit to clinch their first ever March Madness bid. And we're going for 2 in a row.
Yeah, this could be like that game's gonna be so much fun. I'm rooting for High Point all the way. Last time High Point made the March Madness tournament, you had to sing the High Point alma mater on our show.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh man, that's special. First time ever that we made the March Madness, and even though we gave Purdue some fits
Yeah.
in the March Madness game, and despite losing the talent that we had last year, we have some good reinforcements to back it up. And Flynn Clayman is impressing in his first year as head coach.
Yeah, and even though you lost your head coach from last year to a Division I school to a Power 4 school, at least you could say that you basically didn't miss a beat. You didn't miss a beat.
No, we didn't. We kept the same pace that we have throughout with Terry Anderson and Rob Martin leading the charge. That's a dynamic 1-2 punch. Tomorrow's going to be tough because we know that Winthrop's best player is a beast, Logan Duncombe.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. And I know Winthrop does not mess around. So, although they have been getting away with murder in the 2 rounds that they've played in the Big South tournament, barely getting by Presbyterian today, and then going to overtime to win in the quarterfinals.
So if we can expect anything, I think it's going to be a tight game tomorrow.
Yeah, Winthrop's been living on the edge, riding or dying by close games in this tournament.
Yep. And the last time we faced Winthrop, we edged them out, on a tight game, 89-87, with me in attendance.
Yep, that's right. I remember that. You even sent us the picture to prove it.
Yep. And Terry Anderson is riding off of 3 double-doubles in a 4-game span.
Should be interesting. Okay. Now, one last thing I want to mention before we actually get into the NHL talk. I have a couple quick questions for Alec. So, what conference has been more disappointing to you, the Mountain West or the Big East?
That I don't know fully about, but if we were to go on the standings from let's check the Big East first. So UConn and St. John's are clearly the top 2 from the Big East. St. John's and UConn, they'll be always in it with one another. It's these 2. You could say Villanova if you want to include them.
Yeah.
And then it's everyone else. Seton Hall is the 4th team, but this is like putting Andy Murray in when you include him in the conversation between Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic.
Right.
Ouch. So, and that's no shade to Seton Hall. They're good, but they're not at the tier that UConn, St. John's, and Villanova are at. Mountain West, on the other hand, you would check. There's basically just one team that stands out, and that's Utah State. San Diego State and New Mexico just don't have that in them to catch up to Utah State. So Mountain West, to me, sounds more disappointing from the way I see things because it's Utah State and then it's everyone else. At least the Big East, I see talent with them between UConn, St. John's, and Villanova.
All right. I like that. I was going to go with that same answer, too, because at UConn, even though they lost today, at the time of this recording, they lost to Marquette, who's a bottom-ranked Big East team.
Oh, boy. Oh, and this is not a typical season for Marquette either. But but if it's a win over UConn, I guess Marquette and Lily Schumacher will take it.
Yep, she will. Yep, she will. She was going crazy today. Marquette actually finished 12-19. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Big East is more on the disappointing side, because Marquette, who's been so consistent the last few years, had a bumpy road this year. They finished 12-19. They're, I think, 9th or 10th in the Big East. Not a good run. But you know what? I think everyone has a bumpy year. I think Shaka Smart will learn to bounce back from that.
Yeah, and our old coach from High Point, Alan Huss, he went back to Creighton, and there's a clause in his contract that should Greg McDermott, their head coach of Creighton, retire, then Huss is going to take over as head coach.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so we have a lot to get into, and we're going to go into NHL. Now, the reason why we're going into NHL, Alec has been all over the NHL trade deadline. And what we're going to do is throughout this next period of time, Alec's going to tell us every little trade that's happened and what he thinks about every trade, and gives us a grade of A to F. A meaning great, F meaning a flop. So we're going to start off with the first trade that was made. Alec, all you, buddy. What was the first trade that was made?
All right, so previously you did mention about the top 5 trades that stand out to me the most of this trade deadlines, but one of the trades that stand out, this was made at 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. That's the Washington time zone, because and I'm mentioning Washington because it involves the Washington Capitals.
Correct.
But John Carlson at midnight was traded to the Anaheim Ducks. And this is basically the end of an era. Alex Ovechkin got sad after this. He was doing good, especially given that Washington already traded away Nick Dowd. We'll get to Dowd later because first we're covering Carlson. The return is Anaheim's first-round pick from this year and their third-round pick from next year. The condition on the first-round pick is should the Ducks make the playoffs, the 2026 pick will transfer. But if they miss, they have the option to retain this pick and transfer the 2027 pick instead. But they're on track to make the playoffs, so the 2026 pick is likely to be transferred. So Anaheim first was prioritizing a winger, but seeing that Michael Granlund's going to come back from injury, they instead focused on Carlson to blow it up on the back end. The left side's full of young defensemen. The right side is full of veterans. What this also does is that you can get the bottom two defensive pairs to have Radko Gudas on the second pair, Jacob Trouba on the third pair. Carlson and Jackson Lacombe, I love that fit for the two of them. And here, with Carlson added to the fold, he hasn't slowed down a bit offensively, but he's improving on his defensive numbers. Anaheim loves to prioritize on defense, and that's what they're doing. No extensions in place, but with the addition of Carlson, he will be the fourth leading scorer on the Ducks. 5 of the top 7 scorers are 25 and younger, so they won't miss a first-round draft choice all that much. But it would be surprising if Carlson doesn't stay in Anaheim. But he's the franchise leader among defensemen in Washington in goals, assists, points. So he's the face of their defense, even topping Mike Green, who they had previously as their number one defenseman. This is the trait that stands out the most to me. Essentially, Anaheim saying to Vegas and Edmonton, checkmate.
All right, what was number 2?
All right, this was at the last minute. Trade calls were still being made. Hey, like, hello? Hey, do you want this? All right. So here it is. At the last minute, welcome back to Denver, Nazem Kadri. So Colorado will get him. Calgary will retain 20% of his salary, and the Avs will get a 4th-round pick from 27 along with him. The other way, Calgary is getting Victor Olofsson, prospect Max Curran, a conditional 2028 first-round pick, and a conditional 2027 second-round pick. What am I doing with pronunciations? Am I going in 2020 mode for Five Nights at Freddy's? All right, here are the conditions. For the first one, if Colorado's first-round pick for the year goes to Toronto, Calgary will acquire the 2028 first. But if the 2027 first-round pick is in the top 10, so that pick is top 10 protected, and the 2028 first flies to Toronto, then Calgary is going to receive the 2029 first-round pick unconditionally. The second one is the second condition, which is a second-round pick, is the better of either one of the second-round picks between Colorado and Minnesota. But what Colorado is sending is a message. All in. We already seen this with Brett Kulak for Sam Girard and a second-round pick. We saw this with Nick Waugh for a first-round pick, which is a steep price, but teams are valuing bottom 6 forwards who can play center. Waugh is one of them. He showed that in Vegas, and he showed that in Toronto. Kadri is a familiar face in Colorado. He was part of the Stanley Cup winning team in 22. He went to Calgary, and he played a top-line center role, which he looked overmatched at. He's better off as a middle 6 forward, which is a familiar role for him. They'll have him either on the second line or the third line. The Avs didn't want to lose him, and they're happy to have him back. And honestly, good for them. Brock Nelson flourished, and he's a gold medalist, third-generation gold medalist of the United States.
Yep.
His uncle Dave Christian and grandfather Bill Christian. So Kadri did spend some time on John Tavares' flank earlier in his career with Toronto. But in any event, the Avs, they have an excess of options with Waugh, Jack Drury, Ross Colton, and Parker Kelly all available if they were to center the bottom 6 in any event. But the concern here is his age, because Kadri will be 39 at the end of his contract. But as of now, that's not a factor. His age and term remaining will be something of concern, seeing he's on the books until 2029.
Mm-hmm.
However, he didn't miss a game with the Flames, and he last landed out of the lineup when he fractures right thumb while he was a member of the Avalanche. No thanks to Evander Kane. Even then, he didn't miss double-digit games. His durability is valuable. Whatever concerns Colorado may have weren't enough to stop them from reacquiring him. And Colorado, they may have just 2 picks in the first 3 rounds of the next 3 years, but that Chris McFarland wants to quote less need F them picks.
You mentioned that earlier before we started recording. So that was number 2. What's number 3?
All right, number 3, Mackenzie Weegar to the Utah Mammoth. I love this trade for the Mammoth. He's playing in his debut right now for the Mammoth against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They want to prioritize their defense here. They don't need an extra. They no longer need an extra on the roster, so they reassigned Dmitry Simashev after recalling him, and they got Weegar from the non-roster list after this trade. So with with Weegar, what they did here was acquire one of the best two-way defensemen in the entire NHL. They need a right shot defenseman because they have 4 left shot defensemen on their roster: Mikhail Sergachev, Ian Cole, Nate Schmidt, and I'll have to see who the other one was, but essentially you have 4 left shot defensemen. Oli Mata was the other one, but he was a healthy scratch frequently after what was a disappointing year for him. But Weegar had to consider what he feels like he can compete for a cup in the future. It doesn't have to be this year because the gap between the Mammoth and teams like the Avalanche and the Lightning is sizable. But Utah is an ideal fit. They need a right shot defenseman, and he can slot in and perfectly, whether it be next to Ian Cole or Nate Schmidt, or if you want to have 2 righties on the same defensive pairing, next to John Marino. You have the first pairing of Sergachev and Sean Durzi. And if you want 2 lefties together, Schmidt and Cole are right there. Weegar's in all situations minute muncher, including used on both sides of special teams. I hyped him up as a potential Team Canada selection for the Olympics. He didn't get there, but I would love to see him in the World Cup of Hockey in 2028. I love of his game, the way he plays, and he's a nice addition for Utah.
All right, that was number 3.
All right, so in return, Calgary gets Mata, the rights to Jonathan Castagna, a second round, and 3 second-round picks, all from this year. Utah's pick, the Rangers pick, and the Senators pick. So that's number 3 for there. Calgary is stockpiling on picks, as what we showed for the deadline. They did take on Ryan Strom's contract, but that's an excess goods contract. Yep. They're just going to take on the bad contracts right now to prioritize the future. We don't know if they're going to get Gavin McKenna, but if they don't, there's Ivar Stenberg who's available.
It's true. Okay, that was number 3. Number 4.
All right. I talked to Patrick Rush about this because it involves the Detroit Red Wings.
Right.
It's not David Perron, even though he is in a nice reunion in exchange for a 4th-round pick. Don't get me wrong. Perron's a good addition to the team. And to say that, he boosts the middle 6 and is someone that you can trust heading into the playoffs. What I'm going to talk about, however, is Justin Falk. Originally, the Red Wings were looking for Rasmus Ristolainen from the Flyers, but the Flyers were not satisfied with the trade return that the Red Wings were going for, in which they were offering them. So Ristolainen was taken off the board. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was also available, but he was subsequently taken off the board. So who did the Red Wings go to? Justin Falk. So he gets acquired from St. Louis in exchange for Justin Hall, prospect Dmitry Bushelnikov, a 1st-round pick, and San Jose's 3rd-round pick. The 2 picks are from this year. So Falk is an all-situations defenseman who can boost a second pairing. Detroit was looking for a right-shot top 4 defenseman. There were few options better than him available. The top pairing is stabilized. Simon Edmondson and Ward Sider are together. Falk will help stabilize the defensive core this season, but he's also going to be around next season. And his cap hit of $6.5 million is relatively reasonable. He topped out 50 points in 23. And while he hasn't gotten close to those totals, he's still a complete player. Over the last 3 years, he's averaged 6 goals and 31 points, and he's blocked over 100 shots a season. That's the type of defenseman that you want for a playoff team. He can help out the power play and the penalty kill, but special teams are where he's going to help out a lot, especially on the power play. Even strength, the Red Wings have been up and down, but they've been winning games because of defense and a defense-first style of play. Falk will certainly help out with that defense-first style of play. St. Louis is stockpiling picks. Do remember this trade and the Braden Shen trade that they made with the Islanders. They're stockpiling picks for the future because they know their window has already closed. We're going to revisit the Blues if they come around and say if they trade away Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, or Jordan Bennington, who was on the market. And I wanted Carolina to get him, but no deal was made. But par for the course. We'll revisit the trade talk to the Blues later, but I like this trade for Detroit.
All right. And you did mention Jordan Bennington. You wanted him in Carolina. He was the goalie for Team Canada. So that was number 4. Number 5.
All right. Had the Colton Parayko trade happened, this would have been my number 5. However, he nixed that trade by invoking his no trade clause, and he's staying put in St. Louis. He was unlikely to get moved after that. His preferences were Anaheim and Los Angeles. So now we shift our focus to Connor Garland, who is making his Blue Jackets debut. So he was acquired by Columbus from Vancouver. The Canucks are in a fire sale. They were expected to trade Evander Kane. That didn't happen. Instead, they trade away Garland. They got a second-round pick and a third-round pick in return. The second rounder is from 28, the third rounder this year. So Garland's game is work ethic. And Columbus is in search of a right winger. There was a sizable hole on their depth chart after trading away Igor Chinakov to the Penguins for the same price. Miles Wood was playing on his offside, but so they solved the problem of Garland, and they filled that in. He's at 30 years old. He's find his groove at the right time of his career as a hard-working second-line winger. The Blue Jackets want to bring the top 6 spark they need to pull ahead of the wild card race. With the suspension of Evgeny Malkin, this opens up the window of opportunity for Columbus to capitalize on. Malkin was suspended 5 games for playing whack-a-mole with Rasmus Dahlin. I seriously do not know what he was doing here. Okay, you got cross-checked by Dahlin. Cool. But don't lose your cool over that and play whack-a-mole. All right, so back to Columbus. They averaged 3.75 goals per game ever since they hired Rick Bowness as their head coach. And Bowness has righted the ship in Columbus. They want to make the playoffs and steal a spot from, say, one of the Metro teams. Say if Pittsburgh falls out because of the Malkin suspension and paired that with Crosby, he getting hurt. Well, we don't know what to expect of these Penguins, but we just lost in a shootout, and let's be honest, we are not good in the shootout, and we're not as good in overtime. Columbus is on fire, and Garland, he scored at least 20 goals in the season before. You can rely on him as a middle 6 winger, and you can utilize him for defensive purposes. So that's my number 5.
Okay. So those are the 5 trades that you liked. But now we're going to get in some trades that you may not be too high on, and we're going to give you 3 of them. 3 trades that you didn't like. We're starting off with the 3rd trade that you didn't like. So we're going to start off from 3 down to 1. So what's the 3rd worst trade that you saw this week?
All right, so the 3rd worst trade that I saw from this week, I'll have to start off with, let me check my list. Okay, Michael McCarron for a 2nd-round pick. Don't get me wrong. McCarron is good as a 4th liner, but if you're paying a 2nd-round pick for a 4th liner, oh my goodness, you're making an overpay and a half. I'll just say this about McCarron. He's a 4th line grinder who used to be a 1st-round pick himself, but he didn't pan out as a 1st-rounder because he was stuck because he couldn't grind his way out of the AHL in Montreal. He grew his game in Nashville where he became a fan favorite. He threw his body around and he endeared the fans as to a litany of hits and lighting the faceoff dot on fire. He's a really good faceoff man.
Okay.
But is he really worth a 2nd-round pick?
All right. Number 2.
All right. Number 2 for on the list of trades that I didn't like. Now, this one will depend largely on how things pan out, but Nick Waugh for a first-round pick. My goodness. Well, I'll be honest. Waugh is good in his own right, and he's a proven goal scorer as well. He can slot in on the third line. He can be a fourth liner too. But a first-round pick in return, Toronto's recouping in their losses for what they trade away in the Scott Laughton trade. The first one, not the second one. If you remember, they trade away a first-round pick to get Laughton in the first place. Now they trade away Laughton for a third-round pick. They wanted to get a first-round pick back because they know they don't have their own first-round pick. So they trade away Waugh for a first-round pick, that being in 27. That's a conditional pick. And the fifth-round pick that they got in 2026 is also conditional. So the conditions are as follows. In the event that the first-round selection is in the top 10, Colorado is going to send their unprotected 2028 first-round pick to Toronto. Colorado currently holds 3 fifth-round selections in this year's draft. The lowest of those 3 picks will be transferred to Toronto as part of the transaction. Now, his time in Toronto is brief, and the Leafs didn't have any leverage when trading for him because they were at an impasse in the Mitch Marner front. His numbers took a tumble, but he's under contract for an additional year at an entirely affordable $3 million cap hit. He's also regularly on the penalty kill, ranking number 3 among Leafs forwards in shorthanded time on ice. So he'll be sliding in on the third line next to Ross Colton and Nazem Kadri.
Yep.
And for faceoffs on the right side to circle, you can put him in those situations. He'll be on the wing on the left side. A first-round pick is certainly an expensive price to pay for any player.
Yes.
But I'll have to say at number 2, but if Colorado overcomes the President's Trophy curse and wins the Stanley Cup, that's assuming if they hang on to the top spot in the NHL. Should they overcome the President's Trophy curse and win the Stanley Cup, then I can forgive this trade. The cost of the first-round pick will be worth it. Case in point, Blake Coleman to Tampa for a first-round pick. What happened? The Bolts won back-to-back cups. They addressed their key weaknesses by trading for Coleman and Barclay Goodrow, and they won back-to-back cups with those 2 in the lineup.
All right. That was your second worst trade. Number 1 is...
All right. I got to take a laugh at this one because Stan Bowman, what are you doing as a general manager? If you want to know why I'm not high on the Edmonton Oilers this year, take a look at who's in the front office. Stan Bowman as their general manager. I'm not going to get this twisted. Jason Dickinson's a good player. To get him a 50% salary retention is a good deal. But you're paying a first-round pick to get him in the first place. Not to mention that the Oilers because of the situation they're in, they're back to where they were in 2021. A top-heavy team being carried by McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins, and Bouchard. Questionable goaltending, questionable defense, questionable depth. They're back to where they were in 21 when Dave Tippett was their head coach. And unlike Tippett, Chris Knobloch is not a bad coach. He's an excellent coach. But if there are Oilers fans who are blaming Knobloch, what do you want him to do? He can only coach so much out of this. He's a good coach. I saw the Oilers getting ran over in spades by the Carolina Hurricanes last night, 6-3 on a defensive masterclass. And I'll tell you this, Dickinson's a shutdown center. It looked like his offensive numbers were going to rise, but if you're banking on Dickinson to have his numbers for where he had his offensive explosion, you're setting yourselves up for disappointment. Dickinson's going to be a shutdown center, which, in fairness, that's the role that he's inclined to play as a third-line center. That's one thing. And shedding off the entirety of Andrew Mangiapane's contract, that would be another good thing if you did include a first-round pick to trade for Dickinson in the first place, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this a problem for you? Your 2026 first-round pick that you trade to San Jose in the Jake Wallman deal now is unprotected. San Jose gets to keep it free of charge. No protections on that pick anymore. So it is top 12 protected, this 2027 first round pick. If it's in the top 12, the Oilers can choose to transfer their 2028 first round pick to Chicago instead. And that's to be declared prior to next year's draft. If they choose to trade that year's first round pick before the trade deadline, the 2027 first round pick will automatically transfer to Chicago unconditionally. So the Oilers are stuck. I don't think the Oilers are going far. They've already made their bed with their goaltending and Tristan Jarry, which I have to say, that trade continues to get better for the Penguins. Stuart Skinner may not have been traded by Pittsburgh, but we turned Brett Kulak into Sam Girard and a second-round pick, and I am putting a smile on my face. Thank you, Kyle Dubas. Thank you so much.
You mentioned the Oilers and how much they've fallen off. Think of it. This is the last team to win the last 2 Western Conference Finals, and they've just fallen apart. They're third in the Pacific. They're third in their division. They're third in the Pacific. But the problem is the Pacific is not that good of a division. Need I remind you? Number one. Number two, when a team like Anaheim is in first place, which no one saw coming, that's kind of shocking. But like Edmonton's fall from grace is just, it needs to be studied. Because again, how did this team make back-to-back Stanley Cup finals at this rate with the way their front office is constructed? Beats me.
And if we factor in overtime losses, the Oilers would have a losing record. They're 30, 25, and 8. But if we go wins and losses, 30 wins, 33 losses.
Correct.
That's a sub 500 record. And even for the Chicago Blackhawks scandal aside, Stan Bowman's not a good GM. We've seen this with the Chicago Blackhawks. That team was constructed by Dale Talon, not Stan Bowman. Bowman took what Talon inherited, and he won 3 Stanley Cups with Talon's players.
He did. So he inherited something, but he's not good picking up the pieces.
Yeah. Likewise in Edmonton, he's inheriting in what Ken Holland had. It's crazy to me that throughout Connor McDavid's career, he's had bad general manager after bad general manager. The best GM that he's had as his front office was Ken Holland, which in fairness, he's not among the cream of the crop, but he was more mid-tier at best, which is saying something about where the Oilers want to go.
Yeah. And what's even more crazy to me is the fact that if you look at the Atlantic Division, the Florida Panthers, the back-to-back defending Stanley champions, are tied for the bottom of the Atlantic Division with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who were also a playoff team last year. I mean, the Maple Leafs, one thing you gotta understand is they've been terrible since coming back from the Olympic break. I mean, they were now they're 0-7 since the Olympic break. That is bad.
Yeah, and the Panthers, they've been ravished by injury. So and they decided we're punting the season away. We're now focusing on re-signing Sergei Bobrovsky, they said, but he's cooked this year.
Yes.
I'm not even kidding. His stats back it up. At 37 years old, he's looking like a shell of himself behind that defense. They trade away Jeff Petrie, but let's be fair. He wasn't doing a lot in Florida at this stage of his career, and he's more depth at this current point. But Bobrovsky, his next contract, what he's going to get is more of a legacy contract at this point. I feel like the Panthers, they're going to wait for Alexander Barkov to return next season, which is fair because they were banking on the long shot chance that he returns this season in the case that they were competing for a playoff spot. But they're not competing for a playoff spot. Oh, cool. You got to win over the Maple Leafs. Whoop-de-doo! Just wait until next season. This year's not your year.
Oh, my God. Like, think of it. The 2 teams that were in the Stanley Cup Finals, the last 2 years, I've just had major falls. I mean, we're probably going to see the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs because of how bad the Pacific is. But at the same time, they're not playing up to par. I'd be shocked if this team comes out of the West.
You know, I think it's going to be a team for the Central coming out of the West. It says something that the best team in the Pacific is the Anaheim Ducks.
It does.
Yeah, because Vegas, I'm starting to not trust them with how unstable their goaltending is. And they're relying too much on tight games.
Yeah. And sometimes if you live by tight games, you die by tight games too. And you're going to lose more of those than you would win. And think of it, in the playoffs, you lose more tight games than you would win.
Yes.
And Anaheim, I don't know where they're getting this from, but please tell me, how is Anaheim doing this?
To say coaching matters. And that's not to say that Bruce Cassidy is a bad coach, but I'll have to say Joel Quenneville is stabilizing this ship. His structure has the players motivated. And we're seeing breakouts from guys like Leo Carlson and Mason McTavish. You want guys to have the right fit, such as Chris Kreider, Beckett Seneca, who's having an outstanding rookie season with 20 goals and 51 points. We could be looking at Seneca as a potential Team Canada World Cup of Hockey roster selection. Troy Terry is still strong as ever. Jackson Lacombe, who didn't get any reps with Team USA, he is a legit number one defenseman. Jacob Trouba, a hitting machine. Radko Gudas, hitting machine. Pavel Mintyukov isn't having the season he's having, but he's building nicely. And the depth is, what I can say is strong. The goaltending room looks by far and away the best in the Pacific Division. Lucas Ostao, even though he's just at an .893 save percentage, the thought counts. The thought counts with him that he look at the goal saved above expected numbers. Base stats don't tell the full story. Tuukka Rask once said on the NHL and TNT panel that you prefer goal saved above expected over save percentage.
Yeah, that's incredible to look at when you look at a stat like that. And then I think that honestly, like we were hyped at the Buffalo Sabres as the most surprising story in the NHL this year. Anaheim, I think, has to be up there in consideration because of how bad they've been for several years up until this year.
Oh, you speak of the Buffalo Sabres. Oh, my. Look, I know Colton Parayko didn't want to go to Buffalo, but hey, they made up for that. They more than made up for that by trading
made
for
amends.
They made up for that by trading for Logan Stanley and Luke Shen. And also they got Sam Carrick from the Rangers. So they shore up their bottom pairing defense and their fourth line. They need stability on the fourth line. Buffalo, forget playoff spot. They're coming for the top spot in the Atlantic. They are giving the Tampa Bay Lightning a run for their money right now. Buffalo is winners of 6 straight. Tampa's top heavy. Buffalo is balanced all around the lineup, and that's thanks to coaching. Lindy Ruff, he's the man behind the business.
Yep.
Nikita Kucherov may be the Hart Trophy favorite, and he's a top 5 player in the NHL. The Sabres are a well-oiled operation on goal scoring and defense. Everything backs it up, and it's full of unlikely contributors. Alex Lyon, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen to stabilize that 1-2 punch in goal. Ryan McLeod and that middle six as a second-line center. Jack Quinn's having a breakout. Josh Doan's having a breakout. Matthias Samuelsson's having a breakout on the defensive side. Alex Tuck was being thrown up on trade rumors time and time again, and him staying put is a good thing because he fits the system as a two-way winger. He can chime in offensively. He can chime in defensively. This team is built in a collective identity all throughout, and they're playing for a coach that knows what he's doing.
And they're playing for an interim GM too, because remember, in the beginning of the year, Buffalo started the season off really, really slow. They fired their GM, and then boom, things changed the way they have. Like it's been a dramatic turn of events in the best way for the Buffalo Sabres. And right now, that tie with the New York Jets for long as after playoff drought might be snapped.
You know, you can do this, Buffalo. You can do this.
And you know what? Good for them. They're finally discovering their identity.
They are. After all these years, with Thompson, Dahlin, Samuelsson, finally, the time has come for Buffalo.
Now, one thing that you talked to me about before we actually record, and even if it was during the deadline, you asked me how much would the Rangers want for Vincent Trocheck. Trocheck ended up not getting dealt at the deadline, which was very shocking because I felt like the Rangers should have at least blown it up a little bit, in my personal opinion, because of how bad the team is. They're the worst team in the Eastern Conference. It's not going to be better. They can't win home games to save their life. Jack Hughes had a hat trick against us today. It's just been a disaster. But like, Why do you think that the Rangers even held on to Vince Trocheck and kind of kept him hostage, if you would?
I'll have to say with Trocheck is that I feel the Rangers didn't get the right asking price that they wanted to. If I were to make my predictions on how things went out, there were some talks, but it just fell flat. The closest that there was that from Minnesota, because they needed to have some center depth. They were relying on Ryan Hartman to be. They're relying on Ryan Hartman to be their top line center, which, in honesty, you could do a lot better than Hartman as your top line center. Joe Eriksson will be a more natural fit on the top line center, and you would have Vincent Trocheck slotting at the second line center, centering the line of Matt Boldy. And let's just say, for example, you have Kirill Kaprizov, Joe Eriksson, Matt Zuccarello on the top line. Then you can have Matt Boldy, Vincent Trocheck, Marcus Johansson on the second line.
Mm-hmm.
Then from here on out, you can figure things out. You can put Ryan Hartman on the third line, unless if you want to experiment with Danila Yurov on the top two lines. That would be a good idea because Yurov is entering this season was one of the top prospects of the Wild. You make that trade to get Quinn Hughes. You shore up your defense, and you might end up getting the best defenseman in Wild history. Not even kidding. He's that good of a defenseman. He's historically good in how he's putting up these numbers. The Wild became a cup contender overnight with that trade. But
They did.
Not getting Trocheck, that could be a difference maker because Minnesota has two of the best goaltenders in the league on the same team with Philip Gustafsson and Jesper Wallstedt. Gustafsson save percentage 912, Wallstedt 911. Those are pretty good numbers. Dallas is rolling, but I feel they're somewhat top heavy. But that's not saying they aren't good, but they might be relying a lot on the top guys that are on the ice, like Robertson, Rantanen, Hintz, Heiskanen, for example. And Ottinger's numbers took a tumble this year.
They did. They really, really did. Jake Ottinger is usually one of the better goalies in the NHL, but he's having a rough year as a whole. The NHL is actually a really interesting point. We have less than 20 games left in the regular season. The playoffs are around the corner. March is the last full month of the regular season, and then by the time we get to the NHL playoffs, it's on.
Oh, yeah, it's on.
It's on. And that's probably when we'll probably go crazy with the hockey when we get to the NHL playoffs. And that's usually when we have our NHL NBA duo bracket challenge, which, by the way, I can't wait for that. Alec came last in that challenge. I remember that clearly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I can't wait for this. Please, I would love to have Carolina come out the Eastern Conference and win the Prince of Wales Trophy. I don't know who we'll face in the Stanley Cup Final if we make it out, but I would love for Carolina to make the Stanley Cup Final.
I'm going to be honest with you right now. Like, Colorado is dominant right now, but if they're going to face a team like the Sharks or the Kraken, they might be knocked off their pedestal in the first round.
I feel the Sharks pose a legit threat if you were to go actually the Kraken make better sense of posing a legit threat if you're talking about from a goaltending standpoint. Colorado looks by far and away the best team in the league after all those moves they made, and they all make sense. You're going all in. This is the year that you want to deliver a fourth Stanley Cup to Denver. Anything short of that, ouch.
Failure. Absolute failure.
Yes.
Oh, my God. All right. So we have several minutes before we actually close. So before we do close, I do have a couple things I want to say. First announcement. Since the Madness is only less than a week away and Selection Sunday is a little over a week away, I want to announce our March Madness Bracket Challenge will be open next week. We'll be collecting money from March 15th to March 18th. The actual tournament for the first round will start on March 19th, which is a Thursday. That's when the first round starts. March 15th to the 18th will be the first four and the playing games. And also just trying to get your bracket set up. So if you want to donate, it's $10 to buy a bracket. The most brackets you can buy is 5. So the most you can donate is $50. So this is an announcement that we're going to make again. We raised $600 last year for this bracket challenge. We loved it so much. Kevin wound up winning the whole thing because he was the only person that had both the championship correct. And my bracket came in last because I decided it was a great idea to randomize my bracket through dice and 8 balls and ChatGPT and other stupid methods. And I vowed I'll never do that again. Also, another thing I want to mention, with April not too far away too, I want to also mention that April is Autism Awareness Month. Autism Awareness Month is very important to me because over the course of my life, I have helped out with a lot of autistic related charities and businesses. And it is because of that, through every show throughout the month of April, I'll be wearing this. Alex has seen this before.
Stand by, everyone.
My Autism Awareness jersey.
Oh, man. That's sweet of you.
And part of the reason I got this because I was doing the Stenton Down High School senior games back when I was in college. And the guys at Jag One Fitness who were sponsoring the events, they gave this to me to wear. And I've kept it ever since. And as someone who is autistic, I can tell you this much. If you are autistic or if you are on the spectrum, don't feel like you're belittled. Don't make it feel like you don't have a voice or that you're abnormal. You're normal no matter what you are. And autism is just nothing. If anything, you're probably more creative as an autistic person than you are as a normal human being. People with autism think outside the box. People with autism have creativity. People with autism have enthusiasm. And I can tell you right now, I match every characteristic and I'm proud of it.
You know, I have to say, I too am autistic, and I have to say, I'm with you there, brother.
Thanks, man. I also want to give a shout out to a friend of mine. His name is Giulio Bianchi. Giulio Bianchi, he's not a sports guy, but he's a movie guy. He's one of the most enthusiastic autistic people I've ever met in my life. He actually writes children's books for people with special needs. And he actually released his latest children's book, Pat's Hats, which is available on Amazon. It's a very good book that I actually got a chance to gloss over myself. He's probably doing an in-person reading soon. Giulio Bianchi is a good friend of mine. He's been a good friend of mine for 20 years. And he's just living proof, like Alec and I, that it doesn't matter if you're on the spectrum. If anything, you're on the spectrum, it's an advantage, not a disadvantage.
100%.
Oh, man. Okay. So we had Sal Smith on the show. That was awesome. Alec got his hockey guts out, and we love it. But anyways, we're not going to do Fresh Finder Fry this week because we can't really do it with two people.
Yeah, it's pretty much, no pun intended, the Fresh Finder fried at this point if it's only just two of us. I feel we have to have at least 3 people here for a Fresh Finder Fried to take place.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Kevin is on his way back home from New Jersey. He came here. I actually got to meet him in person for the first time. It's actually really cool. And John has a sore throat and is a little under the weather. And I bet it's probably because spring's around the corner and the weather patterns change. That typically happens. It's happened with me. So fast recovery to John and Kevin. Hope you land home safely. But anyways, from Alec Nava, I'm Matt Sirianni. God bless you all for everything that you do, for watching Foursquare Sports, and everything that you support us throughout the thick and thin. And for everyone in the armchair community, like Armchair, Lily Schumacher, Randy Couray, oh God, the list goes on and on and on. We have a lot of stuff coming up with Foursquare Sports in the future, and we can't wait to bring it to you. The draft is up in the air. We're probably not going to end up doing it because Alec has a lot of conflicts going on, but we're going to follow the draft as much as we possibly can from a remote position.
Yeah, we'll do the best that we can throughout the NFL draft, but we'll be with you all the way.
Absolutely, 100%. John Welch will probably be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with Armchair and the guys of Great North Sports, or Sportsocracy, as we like to call them. But anyways, like Special Script always says, old people of the grace, they're full of wisdom and experience. And if you know someone who is an elderly senior citizen, treat them with kindness. They are valuable to the youth. They are valuable to our citizenship. They're valuable to everything that we as the youngsters stand for, and we cannot underestimate everything that they do. But anyways, for the both of us, this has been Four Square Sports, which is sports at its absolute best core. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you soon.
Hi, everybody. Christopher Mad Dog Russo here. And you know what I do? Four Square Sports on Sunday nights, 6 to 8, with all those parts of the country taken care of. Listen all the time. You got it. Mad Dog on Mad Dog Unleashed. Listen to my guys. Listen to my guys.